Today, I'm telling you about the moment that someone told me something that honestly messed with my head. A good friend at the time looked at my resume and then she said, "Don't put Haitian, don't put Haitian Creole, don't put French because they won't hire you." And I want you to sit with that for a second because what I feel that she was really saying was hide yourself so you can survive. But here's the twist. I left it on my resume and I got hired because of it. So if you ever felt like your identity is something that you have to shrink in order to be accepted, this video is for you. First, let me define what I'm talking about today. This isn't just a resume story. It's not a story about, looking for a job. This is a story about fear advice. And what I mean by fear advice, it's when someone gives you guidance based on what scares them, not based on what is true for you. And when you're an immigrant, especially a Haitian immigrant, there are often rules that those rules are passed down like a survival handbook, and the rules go something like don't stand out, don't talk too much, don't tell them too much about you, don't give them a reason to judge you. And some of that advice, they come from real pain. And some of it comes from real experiences. But some of it also comes from just being handed to you like some kind of inheritance, So today I'm breaking down what that friend told me, what it did to me, and what I chose, what happened, and the lesson that I want every Haitian and every immigrant to hear. Okay, so here's the backstory. At the time, I wasn't in corporate America yet, and I was working in a department store. And I told that story before. I met this older man while I was working there. And he was the kind of person that you meet at work and who sees something in you before you even fully see it in yourself. And basically, he said to me, "You have skills, you've done office work before, why don't you try corporate?" Because in Haiti, I had already worked as an executive assistant. So it wasn't new to me being professional. It wasn't new to me being organized. I was new to the American system. So I did some research and then I found an agency. I think at the time, they still exist. So the agency, it was those places that help you get hired. And the agency, I called them, the agency told me to bring my resume. And they told me, "Hey, just so you know, if you put something on your resume as a skill, you might get tested on it." So I'm doing some preparation because I'm taking this seriously. And before I go to the agency, I reached out to a friend. And this friend is Haitian too, and she already worked in corporate in New York. So I'm thinking to myself, perfect, she's the right person to get it. So I sent my resume to this friend. And basically, I think what I was expecting when I sent her the resume, I was expecting feedback, feedback like, fix this line, move that section, change this wording. But instead, she told me something else. And this is what she said. She says, "Webley, remove on your resume that you're Haitian. Don't put that you speak Haitian Creole, and don't put that you're French, because the moment they know you're Haitian, they're going to know that you speak French because every Haitian speaks French." And I remember being quiet because sometimes when someone says something shocking, you don't respond right away. You just freeze. And she went ahead and explained the reason why she said that. And she said the reason is that if they know you're Haitian, they won't even call you. That sentence carried a lot of weight for me because It means that she believed that being Haitian was a disadvantage. And it also means that she believed that my language was a risk. It also means that she believed that the safest way for me to succeed was to disappear. And I'm not saying that she was evil. And I'm not saying also that she wanted to hurt me. But what I'm saying is that the advice that she gave me, that advice had consequences because it made me look at myself like I was a problem. After the call, I thanked her. I was polite, but when I hung up, I started spiraling. Things started going through my mind because I was just thinking about a resume. I was thinking, is this what my life is going to be in America? Do I have to erase myself in order to get opportunities? And I debated with myself for about a week, a whole week, because this wasn't a small decision. Okay. And every immigrant knows that, when you're looking for a job, you're putting yourself out there. That's not a small decision. It's not like you're choosing between two fonts, Times New Roman or Arial, So, because you're choosing between safety versus truth. You're choosing between approval versus your identity. You're choosing between hiding versus being seen. So I had to ask myself something a lot of immigrants ask, but they don't always say it out loud. So I was asking myself, will being myself in this situation cost me everything? That's the question. And I had another thought. I thought trying to be someone else is going to be very exhausting. It is going to be really hard. Because to me, trying to be someone else, it's like you're holding your breath all day, And I also said to myself, Webley, you've done well in school. In Haiti, you finished top of your class. So I know that I was capable. And so why am I acting like I need to apologize for who I am? So that's when something in me shifted. Now, here's where I want Haitians listening to really pay attention, because a lot of Haitian immigrant families, they don't just raise children, they raise survivors. And it's like there is a code and like a rule book. And that rule book, it gets passed down from one generation to the next. And it's like, okay, you're here now. Here's how to behave. Here's what not to do. Okay. And again, I'm not blaming them. I'm not, because I know that our parents and the elders, they went through a whole lot of things. And they don't always share those things with us. And I know they also faced a lot of bias. And with that, they learned how to stay safe. So for them, they are also teaching us the safe way to survive in America. But for me, I had a rebel side. It wasn't rebellious like I want trouble. It was rebellious like, wait, but why? And I remember I would ask, has anyone ever tried doing this differently? Or there was always this question in the back of my mind, what would happen in the other side of the fear, And did someone actually do this and fail? Or are we just repeating rules because we're scared? And the answers, they were always vague. And if you have Haitian parents, you know, they would tell you one of their favorite answers is always, this is how it is. This is how we do it. And they just tell you it won't work, but they don't give you any explanation why exactly it's not going to work. And nobody could nobody could point the proof to me. And that's when I realized something. Sometimes people discourage you not because they know that you will fail, but it's because your courage makes them uncomfortable. Because if you try and you succeed, it's going to prove that their fear was not a fact, right? And this is where my mindset changed, because I remember sitting with my resume and thinking, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? They can just say no. And then I told myself, Webley, let the right people tell you no. Not my friends, not my fear, not someone who's guessing this is what probably would happen. And I want the actual decision makers to tell me no. So I started treating rejection like it was a part of the process. You know, I started shopping around for no's. You know, and if one place says no, I'm going to apply again. And if they don't call me back, so I'm going to submit somewhere else, right? And I just knew that if this doesn't work out, you know what? I'm still alive, I'm still capable, and I'm still moving. Because at this point, I was like, you know, what's the worst about rejection? Rejection, it only breaks you when you treat it like a final judgment, you know, about who you are, about your worth. So I made the decision, and I'm leaving my resume exactly how it is. I'm not removing that I speak Haitian Creole. I'm not removing that I speak French. I'm not hiding who I am, and I'm not going to lie about it. And this was, I'm not gonna lie, that this was very, very nervous. But I also felt something else. I felt very proud of myself at that moment, because I was like, you know, maybe my friend was projecting her fear onto me. Maybe that was her experience, but I'm going to move forward and get that no and see what happened, because I was choosing myself. And I remember thinking, I don't want a job that only likes me if I'm showing up smaller. I want the job where who I am is actually an advantage. So I went ahead and sent the resume to the agency, and guess what? They were impressed, and they moved me on top of the list, and interviews started coming in. Interviews started coming in, and then I remember interviewing for a great financial firm, and this is where it got really good, because the firm had a situation where they needed someone at the department where I interviewed in. They needed someone who could communicate in French, because sometimes they would have guests. And they wanted to make travel arrangements for them. So when you would call in Europe, where the guest is coming from, and you know, they had to fetch someone from a different department to translate for them and make arrangements. And before that, it was kind of like a going back and forth calling. So when they find someone that would be in the department to do it, you know, and, you know, they had me, so it worked out perfectly. So this is to show you that the very thing that I was told to hide was the thing that made me valuable. And that was my confirmation right there. Look at God. Sometimes what you think is a weakness is actually your differentiator. And sometimes what you think is going to disqualify you It's exactly what's going to make you stand out. And that was a valuable lesson that I learned from that situation. I learned to be careful who you share your dreams with, because some people, they will give you advice from a fearful place, and I don't blame them, because that has been their experience. And you can't, it's not that they don't care about you, they only sharing their experience. But when you're building a life, a real life, you need advice from someone who has done it, or someone who is bold enough to believe that what you're talking about can be done. Because a visionary is not just going to say no. A visionary will say, okay, how could we make this work? Or what's the next step? Or hey, try it anyways. What do you have to lose? And honestly, I wish that somebody told me earlier that my job wasn't to convince fearful people, and that my job was to just keep moving. What do I have to lose? If you're watching this and you've been hiding parts of yourself because you want to be accepted, I want you to think about this. What if the thing that you're hiding is the thing that would open doors? And here's my question for you. Have you ever been told to hide something about yourself in order to succeed? Did you listen to that advice, or did you do it anyways? So drop your answer in the comments. And if you're on a consistency journey like me, my name is Webley, and I am posting every day for 100 days, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 27. Bye.